Welcome to Science Unscripted. I'm Robin Donovan, Science of the Times Editor-in-Chief, and with me today is
Charles Mudd. I'm an attorney with Mudd Law, and our principal office is in Chicago, Illinois.
And Charles, we connected because I was looking for a speaker for an upcoming webinar we have that's actually next Monday at 2, and it is called Small Business Success, Navigating the Family First Coronavirus Response Act.
Yes.
So you're going to be our presenter for that webinar. Can you just tell us, for anyone who's not familiar or who has been deluged with details, can you tell us what the FFCRA is?
Yeah, so in short, I mean, there are so many different acts that have been passed lately and acronyms and so forth relating to COVID-19. The FFCRA really happened to be one of the first big ones, or second, before the CARES Act. And the primary components of this are paid leave aspects for employees that have to be home, whether they're quarantined, having been diagnosed with COVID-19, they're taking care of somebody. So that's one aspect. There are tax credits for the employer that has to pay an employee's leave in that circumstance. But one of the key things too are the requirements that the employer needs to do under the act. Even if no employees are taking leave, there's still requirements and prohibitions as well. So it's kind of understanding that paid leave aspect.
Yeah, and so tell me a little bit about yourself as well. You responded to a query I had put out for webinar presenters. And so tell me a little bit about your firm and the area where you are located.
Right, so appreciate the question. I've had my firm Mudd Law offices for a little over 19 years. And our primary office is in Chicago. We have offices in Houston and Park City. We represent individuals and businesses. Most of the businesses that we represent are whether it be entrepreneur, sole proprietor, small businesses. We have had some medium-sized businesses that we've represented in the past, but our core clientele that we focus on are small businesses. And the type of business ranges from individuals in or businesses in the sign industry, construction industry, challenge course industry, and commercial space, as in astronomical space.
Mm-hmm. And so when you're thinking about FFCRA types of concerns, what are the top things that your clients have asked you to consult with them about, or what are the top questions that you're hearing?
Well, I think a lot of people are very confused at the moment as to the interplay between existing Family Leave Act requirements, the new unemployment provisions in the CARES Act, that how do they tie into this if people have been laid off and or furloughed. And they're wanting to make sure that they know what to do. For example, not to reveal all of the secrets before the webinar, but one important aspect is, for example, the FFCRA, as many businesses will know, as an employer, you need to have labor posters up in the workplace. The FFCRA has an own specific labor poster that needs to be in the workplace. But one of the questions that arose from that is, if we are in shelter in place and remote only, how do we do that? And the quick answer is, the point is to get employees notice and to give employees notice. So if you are not in the workplace, one way to do that would be to send it to them by email.
Okay. And is that a document that people can download somewhere? Like, is there a standard? I assume that there's a form.
There's a standard form. It's available through the Department of Labor. You can also, not to self-promote, but you could go to our webpage, covid19.mudlaw.com, and it has resources of that poster and other documents you can download.
And I think that's two D's, right? So covid19.mud with two D's, mudlaw.com.
Yes, muddlaw.com.
It's an interesting name for a law firm, Charles. I know it's your last name, but
You're not the first that has said that, and in fact, we've had some clients that have chosen us just because of that, or so they say. I like to think it's the substantive work that we provide, but in any case.
yeah. So what do you think about, one of the things that's kind of come up in the background of all of this is small businesses. We have a lot of readers who are mom and pops, who are family owned, who are, the same size as your clients. And they don't necessarily have a CFO on staff. They don't necessarily have a staff. And so this whole interplay of working with contract-based CPAs, working with lawyers, what do people do if they need someone like you and they just haven't before? Because I know a lot of folks are saying is now the worst time to reach out because I need some help. So I guess the question is, how busy are you, and what do you recommend for people that might listen to the webinar on Monday and think, oh my gosh, I need my own lawyer?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. And I was talking to some other people that a lot of times earlier today, a lot of times small businesses don't have, whether it be an IT department in-house, an accountant, or like you were saying, CFO in-house, where there's an accounting department. They may use a payroll company outsourcing, same with attorneys. And I think that it's one of those relationships that ideally you talk to, in an ideal sense, you talk to a number of attorneys, find one that you like sharing your thoughts with, having a conversation with, because you really need to trust the individual. But under the circumstances, that becomes difficult, and there are a lot of pressing matters. And you might not always know too what are the standard fees and what's normal. At the moment, our firm is having initial conversations with people on a complimentary basis with respect to COVID-19 related issues, so that we can provide some guidance, whether that is to our firm or directing them elsewhere. We want to be providing a resource for that. But they do need to get some advice. I mean, as I'm sure you are aware, and they probably know, like even under the PPP loans, there are so many requirements that you have to comply with to make sure you don't get penalized. Same with the FFCRA, you don't want to misstep. And even if it's a quick phone call or a quick consult, that advice and guidance is integral to avoiding the situation becoming worse.
Yeah, and so let's give people something concrete to take away from the FFCRA. I have to admit that my understanding after a week and a half of PPP and CARE Act webinars is still not perfect on FFCRA. So one of the things that I've heard people kind of talking about is doling out additional leave, and whether or not they have to do that. Like if someone wants to take leave where they're out of the office part-time, do they have to allow them to take a bunch of half days? What if the person wants to leave 1 hour early every day? Or how do you know about that? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, well, the FFCRA, so I mean, this ties back to, again, the interrelationship with the PPP and the CARES Act as well. The FFCRA is primarily designed, from my perspective, to provide care to those that really are not able to work. So if somebody's coming in and able to work part-time, that's not an FFCRA type of situation. In fact, if somebody's able to work from home and telework, even if they are, let's say, tested positive with COVID-19, but they are otherwise not symptomatic, if they're able to telework or work from home, then that really FFCRA does not kick in. What FFCRA is really designed to do is to provide a situation where an individual is diagnosed with COVID-19, is unable to work, is under a quarantine situation because they may have symptoms that are similar to COVID-19 and they're getting tested. They are caring for a family member that is in a dire situation like that, or where an employee might be taking care of a child at home because of a school closing or childcare situation that's arisen because of COVID-19. So, in answer to your question, if somebody's able to otherwise come into work part-time and wants to take, or is able to work at all and wants to take a half day, it's really not an FFCRA situation. The other corollary to that with respect to part-time work is that if somebody has been working part-time, the FFCRA does not mean that they suddenly get paid full-time for the time that they're off. The amount of hours that they would be paid would be essentially an average over the hours that they have normally been working. Does that help?
Yeah, that does. And I'm sure that you'll be getting into a lot more of this on Monday. Our time's about up for today, believe it or not. These are pretty short episodes, but we will put a link as soon as we have it to sign up for the webinar in the show notes, and you can look forward to hearing Charles. He'll give a presentation, and you'll also have an opportunity to ask questions live. And I believe there's a question submission form on the registration page as well. So Charles, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to talking to you again next week.
I look forward to being there and addressing any questions that might arise. Thanks for the invitation.